Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast, your home for all things food and pop culture. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. Just a reminder to follow me on socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content. A couple of programming reminders. We are continuing Top Chef recaps all season, so make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you'll know when new episodes drop each and every week. We got only a couple of weeks to go, so make sure you follow and be notified of when those drop. Joining me once again this week, Chef Amadeus, a man who has never seen a table he didn't want to throw food all over. How are things going for you, sir?
Everything is great. Yeah, it's been a good week. A lot of fun things happening, but we'll talk about that later. Um, right now, I'm just heartbroken, disappointed, crying. I ain't
Yeah,
gonna say disappointed.
yeah, we
Just a little sad.
got a lot to talk
I'm not
about.
disappointed. That's the thing. I'm not disappointed. I'm just a little sad. That's all.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about this episode. I thought overall this was probably a better episode in an otherwise fairly lackluster season in terms of a lot of things like production and challenges and overall cookery. But I think this episode was better. And we're almost at the end, so I mean it has nowhere to go
Episodes
but get
plus.
better. So yeah, so let's get right into it. The show opens, everybody's talking about kind of being homesick and being away from your family for a while. I know when I talked to Buddha and Sarah during last season's Top Chef episodes, they talked about they're away from their family for like 2 months or something like that. So I thought it was really cool to learn that Savannah's dad, he retired and became a knife maker in retirement and made some custom knives for her. So she has kind of a piece of home with her. I thought, man, that's got to be cool to have your dad's knives that he made just for you, just for this occasion, to carry with you to through the show. And Dan talked about his wife being only 5 minutes away because he's the local guy and so close, so far away. And you were on Food Network on a food competition, Extreme Chefs, back in the day. How long were you gone? I don't remember it being kind of a multi-episode. It was a multi-episode show, wasn't it? Or no? It was just one episode, right?
No, it was. Yeah, it was only one episode. I was only gone for a day and a half, two at the most.
Because you're down
But
in
here's the
Mexico.
thing: we were down in California. We was on a set.
Oh,
Uh,
oh,
but
okay.
but I think that what was interesting is I've always gone for a short period of time, but I still thought about my family because of what I was doing and how it would you know make the family proud. That kind of stuff.
Right.
I had my family was they were all excited for me and everything. Um, and if I felt that after 2 days, I can only imagine what they're feeling after 2 months, a month, a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I've been separated from my family uh, when I was in the military, and we were like we go on a 6 month cruise. We can't back then. There was no social media. There was snail mail.
Oh, yeah.
And when the mail call came, we were just so excited just to read, letters from home. And especially somebody like Dan, like you said, my wife's like right over there, and I can't even, I can't even do anything with her because, But I feel sorry for them. Not gonna say sorry, but I feel them. I feel their loneliness. Um, but like I said, for those that are out there that have people competing, just be patient. They'll be home soon. They'll be home
And,
soon.
yeah, and they're fairly sequestered. I mean, they see just really each other and the producers and the judges for however many weeks in a row, and so they don't get to go out. They don't get to see other people or things, and they're just like in their hotel room, just stuck.
And
So
and see, that was one of my main reasons why I took the opportunity to go out for the Food Network's event because I didn't want to spend time with anybody, and it was because and everybody who's been in the military knows you have no choice who you sleep with in your berthing. So in my birthing, there may be like 24 people in a birthing, whether you like it or not. So the guy that snores, the guy that's, has hygiene issues or anything like that, you ain't got no choice. That's who you're gonna sleep with.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in your birthing.
So it
So
was
I was
kind
like,
of
I want to do that.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of neat to see, the chefs being a little bit vulnerable and talking about their loved ones, and it's getting close to the end, so they're kind of looking forward to, seeing their families again. So it's kind of nice. So we open up with a quick fire, and they show Tom's cooking. Tom's got the apron on. He's doing his thing, and almost prophetically, they cut to Savannah in the car saying, "I want to walk in there and see someone cooking a dish," as almost as if she was fed that line. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, but it was pretty prophetic. I thought that was pretty funny. So he's Tom is cooking a dish for Kristen and Gail. He kind of called it a lobster stir fry, a sort of like cooked lobster salad. Gail said. And they start kind of naming off some of the ingredients. It's got lobster, obviously. Gail said it's got like ginger fennel leeks and garlic and bok choy. And all three judges commence eating it, clean the plate. Well, leave a little bit in there. And as the chefs come in, they put the nearly empty bowl under a cloche, right? So Tom introduces the chef that comes back from the second half of LCK. So all the chefs are lined up. There's five, but then Laura comes waltzing in. So we're kind of back up to six. I got to say, I saw some of the reactions. Danny did not look thrilled. And Dan said that she's the biggest competition and predicts that she'll be in the finals. So, we're in very much the individual team play now. We're not, sharing budgets or anything at this point. Um, did you catch anything in the reactions of some of the chefs when Laura came walking back in?
Oh yeah, they were like, stop, pause, like, oh, she's back, and because she's a beast. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about her dish, but yeah, she's a beast. I was, I mean, she was shocked that she won Last Chance Kitchen and everything, but um, yeah, they know, especially Danny, because he cooked with her before. He knows she's no slouch.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knows from firsthand experience she's no slouch. Because when they did that architect team challenge together, yeah,
Yep.
he was like, yeah, you know what you're doing. So yeah, like I say, if they're not worried, they should be.
Yep. So all pleasantries go away, and we break down the challenge. So the challenge is they lift Tom says he's under the cloche is probably the most challenging dish they're ever going to cook, and he lifts it up and it reveals obviously it's the empty bowl that the judges were all eating a minute ago. So the challenge is that the chefs have to ask questions to figure out what dish Tom made and then try to replicate it. So each chef gets four questions. So it's kind of like 20 questions, but four extra. So like 24 questions. So they can ask one question before the clock starts just to kind of get the wheels turning. And then they have to ask the rest of the questions as they're cooking, which is a really unique challenge. So they get 30 minutes and then the winner gets $10,000. What did you think of this challenge when you saw it? On a level of difficulty for you, um, how difficult would that be for a really experienced chef at that level to look at an empty bowl with just a few leftover things in there and then asking only four questions of somebody to say yes, no, what was this dish?
It was probably one of the better challenges. It was simple, but mysterious. It's like he's hiding the ingredients without hiding the ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got, yeah. I had some ingredients in the bowl. They're not there anymore, but the remnants is, so you can smell it. Just can't taste it. You can smell it. You can look at the sauce and do everything, and you know make that dish reappear, Houdini style. Poof! There's the salad that you did. Um, I thought, like I said, I thought it was a very, very, very interesting challenge. And like you said, it's the most difficult one you would do because you don't know what the ingredients are. You have to, you have to manifest those ingredients, and some ask good questions, some ask stupid questions.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into a few of those. But yeah, I thought it was a really interesting and fun quick fire too. Just they they did say you can come up to the bowl, you can smell it, you can look at it, but you can't taste anything. So there's still some stuff there. They can't, dip their finger in the bowl and taste what was left.
Right.
So Kristen, before they start, Kristen gives another disclaimer that how they perform in the quickfire will come into play, and if you're on the bottom of the elimination challenge. But as we learned last week and this week,
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
That was a lie, Your Honor. I was, like I said, I was very disappointed this week.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
disappointed.
So let's get to the challenge. So Laura asked the first question: Is it pasta? No. Savannah asked whether it's a soup. No. And then they follow up with like, is it a bouillabaisse or a porridge? And everybody's like, Dan was like, why are you asking that? They just said it wasn't a soup. Why would you think it'd be a bouillabaisse or a porridge?
And
So
then no, he said seafood porridge. Have you ever heard of seafood porridge? It's like,
yeah,
dude, like as soon as Manny asked that question, Dan was like, damn, dude. So yeah, like I say, I was very with Manny this week. I was very disappointed.
yeah. Well, giving Manny some credit, Manny and Michelle were the only two that actually go up to the empty plate and try to figure out some stuff, right there at the start. Dan came up a little bit later. Um, I thought what was interesting is Savannah figured out that a walk was involved, but did not share that with anybody else. And she noticed that because she has figured out the layout of the kitchen and noticed walks were there when they were never there before. And so she thought, well, the walk's got to be involved. So she picks up a walk and starts cooking with it, and nobody clues in on that. Other questions: Is there bok choy? Yes. Is there acid? No. Is lobster the only seafood protein? Yes. Manny had an interesting strategy. He was going to kind of let everybody else ask questions while he tried to cook. He throws some tomatoes in a blender, and then the very next question after that, somebody said, "Is there tomato in it? Is there tomato paste in it?" No, so he immediately has to stop cooking and everything. But I just thought watching them run around, asking questions, trying to figure out what this dish was, I thought it was great fun. I was smiling through the whole thing. So, what'd you think?
Yeah, it was a great challenge. I mean, it's it takes the 20 question game to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and then only having four
so
of those 24 to try to figure it out is interesting. So,
so you were waiting to see, who was going to ask the right question that would click something in your head, and it was just, yeah. And
he just said, "I'm winging
Manny's
it."
Manny's problem right now. What I know about Manny right now is, and it's making me uh very not happy with him, is he's trying to play everything safe.
Yeah,
He's trying to create a middle where there's no middle.
yeah, yeah. It's way too late to play it safe now. You got to swing for the fences.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, I'm just gonna sit back and let everybody else ask all the questions. But dude, you're you're wasting time because now you found out you're making this amazing tomato sauce. Like, nope, no tomato in it. Like, oh, now you gotta start over again. And I said this before, he should have been gone weeks ago.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
he's my guy, he should have been gone weeks ago. And it seems like now he literally is just going through the motions. He's calling everything in. He's not putting forth that passion and I feel like he's doing it for the camera now, not for the show,
Mm,
not to
in-
win.
interesting, interesting.
Because
So,
I mean, because everything he's doing, when they hit him with stuff, he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm still here, so whatever.
yeah,
And
interesting,
then, like
interesting
you said
theory.
last week, same thing you said, like, man, he should have been gone. Well, he played the middle last week.
So let's talk about the dishes in the quick fire.
Okay, that's question 20. You have to guess.
Michelle, and see how close they got. So Michelle made a marinated and poached lobster with an herb salad. Manny did a poached lobster, bok choy, lime juice, cilantro, parsley, ginger, and seafood stack. Savannah did a lobster stir fry with red Fresno chilies, bok choy, and garlic with fish sauce and soy sauce. Laura did blanched lobster with curry, Fresno chilies, garlic, parsley, and fish sauce. Dan did a lobster stir fry with lemongrass, onions, ginger, bok choy, and cilantro. And Danny did a poached lobster, fennel curry with salad of bok choy, cilantro, and parsley. So the top three ended up being Savannah, Michelle, and Dan. So with Savannah, as we talked about before, she was the only one to use the wok, and Kristen loved the texture of the vegetables. Michelle was one of the closest in appearance to Tom's dish, but some of the ingredients weren't quite cooked enough. And Dan also was close in appearance. Gail was impressed with how many of the ingredients he did get right. And so Savannah was deemed the winner. She gets 10K, and that brings her total winnings up to 28K in quickfire cash. So she's doing really well in the last stretch. And then the bottom three, Laura had her dish, and Kristen said it was in Tom's direction, but it was a bit salty. Manny was in the bottom three of this quickfire again. Gail said Manny's was also close, but too much lime juice. And Danny was on the bottom. Kristen said it looked nothing like Tom's, but was the most delicious. It just wasn't Tom's dish. So Danny wasn't even close, but it tasted the best. And what they were looking for here is something to come close to what Tom made. So again, we're only down to six, no middle. You have a top three and a bottom three. What did you think of this split between the top and the bottom?
That's a challenge that I feel as a viewer, you really can't judge from a viewer standpoint because we never tasted it.
Right. Yeah.
See, the other judges had not only do they get to see it, but they get to taste what it tastes like before to what it now. Because as a viewer, you see them putting ingredients that say some of the same ingredients Tom used, but then as a judge, you get to taste Tom's and then taste theirs.
Yeah. So you're right. We couldn't taste it, but looking at it though, I do agree that Michelle and Dan's came close to doing it, and Savannah did too. But I think Savannah winning the thing showed that she's got a very developed palate. Like she smelled the bowl and immediately knew there was ginger and garlic. She even mentioned that she works in a Japanese restaurant, so she has ginger and garlic kind of what she said like seared in her nostrils. So immediately she knows what's in there. So good job, Savannah. Congratulations to her. She gets 28K. Again, she's peaking at the right time, right here in the finals, coming into it. So she's doing really, really well. So the elimination challenge, I was very excited about this elimination challenge. When I saw it in the previews of last week's episode, as they were rolling the credits, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be so fun!" What they had to do for the elimination challenge was create a dish to be plated on and eaten from a tabletop. It can be sweet or savory. They can plate it at their station and bring it out, or do a more dramatic plating in front of the judges. So to kind of give people an understanding of what that is, Kristen did a really good job of explaining. What does a seafood boil? How is a seafood boil served? And it's served on a table, right? Every seafood boil you go to, they lay out the newspaper, they drain the pot and throw all the crawfish, potato, sausage, corn, everything on the table, and everybody just kind of goes nuts and gets their hands dirty. This is kind of that, but chefy. So Tom mentions a couple of restaurants where this is a signature feature. So Grant Achatz at Alinea in Chicago is probably the best example of this in the U.S. He was one of the first episode of Netflix's Chef's Table series, and if you do a YouTube search for Alinea, you're going to see it all over YouTube where they spread the dessert all over the table. And he mentioned another restaurant in Spain that does something different with the table. But you kind of called this out during the chaos episode where you thought that what they did today's episode or last night's episode, you thought somebody should have done that during the chaos episode. So when you saw this come up, were you kind of like, okay, that's interesting. I'm glad they're doing that now.
Like I said, I was very happy to see that and was looking forward to seeing the true artistic and passion on the table come out of some of these chefs. And it was interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And Alinea, I mean, Alinea is on my bucket list of restaurants to go to at some point before I die. So that is definitely something I want to experience. This whole tabletop, serving food on a tabletop where you eat it off the table would be fun to watch. So the guest judge is Chef Curtis Duffy, friend of the pod for Eat Your Content. I had him and his partner Michael Muser on and interviewed them about the restaurant and how it became a backdrop of the Bear. So he's the executive chef of two Michelin star restaurant ever in Chicago. So I talked to them back in episode 27 of my podcast. So if you want to go back and check that out, and there's a link floating somewhere around here if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, I'll put it in the show notes. But it was really interesting talking to both of them. I thought he was a perfect chef to judge this. If not Grant Achatz himself, then Curtis Duffy's great. I mean, he is doing some really cutting edge things with food. It was really great talking to him and Michael about that whole thing that they have going on at Ever and The Bear season 2. Speaking of which, The Bear season 2 drops on June 27th, and I'm going to be doing episodic recaps of that. So again, make sure to like and follow and subscribe so you'll know when those drop. Going back to the episode. um, like I said, he's a great judge. His food is beautiful. Ever is also on my bucket list to go eat. Chicago in general has a lot of restaurants I want to go try. But I'd have to take out a second mortgage to pay for both of those meals. So maybe next time, maybe later. So we'll see. Overall, I don't know if you're familiar with Curtis Duffy's work or anything, but overall, what did you think of the guest judge as a judge, and as he was talking through some of these dishes through the night?
Well, I'm not familiar with this particular chef, but he had black fingernail polish on, and that lets me know that he is an individual artist. He
Oh
does
yeah,
things on his own because he want to do them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what the left and right is doing. This is what I'm doing. This is how I want to do it, and it's individualized. It seems like his work is one of those where when you see it, you're like, oh, I know who did that.
yeah,
I know exactly who did that.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like I say, having black fingernail polish on, like yeah, he got
yeah,
some. He's on the edge because he's like, watch this. Y'all think that's good? Watch this. So yeah, like I said, I mean, all the judges that they brought on for each episode, for each everything, I think was spot on. I don't think not one judge they brought on did not fit the challenge.
yeah, yeah,
Even the what's the name with the chaos challenge? Perfect guy. Perfect
yeah.
guy for the chaos challenge. Perfect guy for him. So yeah, like I said, I don't know much about the chef, but he had on black fingernail polish. I feel like yeah, but now you know me, I don't pick chefs on what their resume is. There's always something different about them that I like, and the way that he has black fingernail polish, I was like, okay, yeah, I wouldn't he wouldn't shock me at anything that he does.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really great, and I was very lucky to have him on the pod, and can't wait to eat his restaurant at some point in my future. So, let's talk about the chefs and some of the strategy they thought about going into this. And this is kind of like the Chaos Challenge in that it's kind of wide open, and I think a lot of judges got lost thinking about all that space, right? They're used to plating on a dish or a bowl, and here they're talking about using the table, a stark white table as this blank canvas, and I think a few really understood that assignment, and then a couple got lost. So let's take a look at kind of what Michelle was thinking. We'll talk more during
Uh,
judging, but I think Michelle is one of those ones that got a little bit lost. She was trying to do something brunchy. She wanted to use beets and salmon, and she didn't want to be cliche. Which, if you kind of think about what she does barbecue, which is essentially eating everything off of a table with butcher paper. Easily could have done something there, but she didn't want to do that for some reason, and went completely outside of that. So she was kind of lost, right? So what did you think about Michelle not really kind of embracing who she was? This was a perfect challenge for her to embrace and show off what she does and do it, but she didn't.
I was just shocked at what she did. Um, I was expecting her to take what she does and put a twist on that. Crawfish boil, crab boil, barbecue, all that, and lay it on a plate and just put a twist on everything, that she does. Like, you know, Danny put the tape down and made the sauce and everything. She could have did, the sauces, like do some grilling, a whole bunch of grilling of things, the vegetables and all that, and make a puree of a vegetable. And but like she said, the time got away from her. And I've said this many times on the show. Time is your enemy. If you're thinking and the time is still ticking, it will eat you up. And I just felt so bad because she was just overwhelmed and lost at it. And she put everything in the middle of the table,
Yeah. Really
didn't
compressed it.
stretch it out. Yeah, didn't stretch it out for, yeah, like I said. But here's the thing, I'm proud of her, because she gave it all. She gave it her all, and the time just ate her up. And she even said that, it was the time. Time just got away from me. So yeah, I felt bad that the time got away from her, because I'm always rooting for Michelle.
Yeah, and if you remember way back early in the season, um, Buddha and Kristen went back to the stew room and told everybody, "Look, you got to cook who you are. You're not going to make it on this show." Right? They gave him that kind of stern pep talk, and this was a perfect opportunity for her to do that. She could have done a bunch of like barbecued or grilled meats and splashed, different barbecue sauces all over the table, had like mounds of meat all over the table, mounds of mac and cheese or mounds of coleslaw. And, it and chefed it up a little bit. Maybe you see those little tiny grills that they sell at like World Market, in shape of pigs or whatever.
Yeah.
These little tiny ones. She could have done something like that and had like little skewers of meat. I mean, my head was going 90 to nothing thinking about how she could have done her own cooking on this and
Now,
killed it.
now here's the thing. Everything you said is absolutely correct. The only problem is you don't have that gorilla on your back while you're coming up with this.
That's true, but the fact that she thought about it and said,
Once
"I don't want to
again,
be cliche."
right, but here's the thing. That gorilla on your back changes the whole. You're sitting behind a microphone like, yeah, I could do this, could do that, but you don't have that gorilla on your back, tick, 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 ticking, and she had it on her back. Here's the thing, like I said before, Michelle, everybody on my team, I picked them because of their cultures, and Michelle had everybody rooting for her. That's on her shoulders. Michelle had Michelle herself trying to do something good, trying to win this on her shoulders. And you got that big old gorilla on your back of time, and it weighs you down. So that's why I say this. When if time gets away from you, people can always say, "Well, you have poor time management." If you've never been in that spot, you have no idea what time management is.
Yeah.
They cut it up. Trust me, you have no idea. All those chefs that say, "Oh, time got away from me," I feel bad for them because I've been in a couple of competitions or a couple of events where time just got away from me, and I just so like I said, grilling stuff perfect for that. Um, just all the grilling and I mean, they could have been just amazing things grilled. The vegetables, the corn on the cob, everything, and got the sauce in the squeeze bottle and like,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah. It
know,
would have been. It would have been cool.
and if you did different, like could do a mustard sauce, tomato sauce,
Oh yeah.
barbecue sauce, and then yeah, sling a little greenery over the place. Yeah, but like I said, what she did was what she had time to do. I just wish she would have spread it out a little more because it's just like plating it on, and because it was on such a large surface, it really looked tiny.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
really looked tiny. But like I said, in her defense, that gorilla got her. And
Yeah.
if you've never done competition, that gorilla is a beast.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I can see her saying, "Well, time got away from it." Everybody had the same amount of time, right? So nobody else had that problem. So I mean,
Hold on, 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 hold on. Everybody has the same time, but everybody has different directions that they go. Okay. If you look at what some of the other ones did, look at the technique to what they did. Was it a lot of technique to it, or was it just straight grilling and sauteing and things like that? I'm not defending Michelle. I'm defending chefs that are in her position.
yeah. So speaking of time management, though, I think Dan kind of found a cheat code around it. He was roasting, he was doing a vegetarian kind of spread. So his big component was like a beet tartare. And he was having a rough time at the beginning. He was roasting it. And when he pulled them out to check, they were still hard as rocks. He's like, "What am I going to do? I'm not going to have enough time." Well, he thinks of sous vide. He throws them in a sous vide, lets them sous vide overnight to get them nice and tender. And I thought, wow, that was genius. And then I kind of thought, is that cheating a little bit? Because, when that clock hits 0, everybody stops cooking, right? But his sous vide is still going. It's cooking overnight, which I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a brilliant move by him to sous vide it, and I think Savannah might have been able to do that with octopus because she was going to do she did an octopus thing on this challenge, and if she had a sous vide the octopus, it would not have come out the way it came out. It didn't come out great, but her overall table looked great. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But did you feel Dan using a sous vide machine to cook the beets as a cheat code or as straight up cheating?
I thought that was a brilliant idea. And since I'm fairly new to sous vide, I ain't mad at him. But here's the thing though, they had it, he used what was in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He used what was in the kitchen. And does the rule say you have to stop cooking and get out of the kitchen, or all the cooking is done
Yeah, I don't
that
know.
day?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
don't
like
know.
I said, it was the but here's the thing though. The This is why I always tell the chefs, you can't be one dimensional, and you have to learn about all the technology that's out there, because you never know when you're going to need it. Like, perfect example, the combi oven. Excuse me, the combi oven. When I was in Seattle years ago, and my buddy who worked at a restaurant store, every new piece of equipment that would come in, he brought me in and showed me how it works. This is what this does. If you do that, this would do that. Now I'm at a position where now I have a combi oven now at the facility I'm at, and I know about it. I don't know everything about it or how to do it, but at least I'm familiar with it. So if I need something done real quick, I can put it in the combi oven. I can cook it and hold it the whole 9 yards. Same thing with this sous vide. Man, my beets are not cooking. What am I going to do? I need these beets. It's the main ingredient. I know. Look, they got a sous vide.
Yep. And they came out
I'm
perfect.
not mad at them at all. I'm not
Oh
mad
no,
at them
I'm
at all.
I'm not either. I mean, if you have sous vide available and you're allowed to use it on a show like Top Chef, then I highly recommend you use it because it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It takes a lot of thinking out of it. As long as you know the time and the temperature, you're good.
And when he came back, he was happy with it. He was, it was like he wanted it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
needed at this particular. Now, granted, like you say, time and temperature. He must know that unless he had it written down somewhere or Googled it or whatever. I don't know time and temp. I know time and temperature what I've been using. Like I did salmon last night for 45 minutes at 129 degrees.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
steak, 139, that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
if you use it a lot, you know what it is.
yeah. So he pulled the trigger on the right technique at the right time. So
Yes.
some other strategy. Danny's instinct was to do a paella. I thought that was a good choice. Paella is just a big communal dish anyway, so I thought that was a really good way to go. Savannah had a really interesting thing that she was doing. She works in a Japanese restaurant, had a lot of Japanese influence. So she's celebrating the sea, and she was planning on doing something called a zensai, which is the first course of a kaiseki meal. So her table looked really good. Laura's was the only dessert, and she had some experience with this kind of like tabletop plating concept, working at 11 Madison Park. Danny also had some experience with this working. He staged at Alinea, so he's seen it in action. Let's talk about Manny. So Manny decides to fall into the risotto trap. It's a trap. As if he doesn't know, he saw his power bottom buddy Kevin go home on a risotto earlier this season, and risotto is they called it Top Chef curse for a reason. 8 people over the course of 21 seasons have gone home because of bad risotto. So it's don't do risotto on Top
Well,
Chef.
here's the thing though. Here's the crazy part. Not only don't do risotto, but don't do risotto when you put it on a table and let it get cold.
Yeah, he was trying to
And
time
then,
it. He was trying to
but
time it
here's the
though.
thing though. I've said this on not just Top Chef, on many food competitions. As soon as someone says, "Oh man, I got this. I've been doing this all my life. They're not going to win. So when he said, I've cooked more risotto than tortillas, dude, you're not going to do well. To
And
me,
he
that's the curse of any food competition when somebody's like, oh, that, and on Top Chef, you see it all the time. They bring out an item. Oh my God. Oh, I grew up doing this. Oh yeah, I do this in my restaurant. I do this. And when you put it out, it's like, dude, you just told us you cook more risotto than you do tortillas, and you're a Mexican chef. Tell me something different. And then he made black squid, and all his seafood's overcooked. It's
yeah.
like, dude, you're missing the mark on so many levels. And then, like I said, he should have been gone home weeks ago because even though he's calling everything in, you're trying to put a middle where there's no middle.
Yeah, so with Manny, what his thought process was, he was told in the last challenge and the last few challenges that look, you're predictable, you're too safe. So he was again gonna try to hit a home run, and there's no bigger home run than if you can pull off risotto in Top Chef. So I guess I get what he was thinking, but the better part of your brain should have thought no, but I mean he did not say that to himself. So he overcooked every single one of his proteins on the table, and then that risotto hit that cold table and it immediately seized up, and yeah, it became spackle right before their eyes. So yeah, I don't know why. Don't cook risotto on Top Chef. Don't cook risotto really on any cooking competition where there's time involved, because you're just you're just not going to be able to pull it out. I don't care how good of a chef you are, you're not going to pull off risotto in a timed cooking competition.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, Danny right now seems like he's just going downhill. He's in quicksand right now.
Yeah.
I like the guy, but you're going in quicksand, and after every challenge, you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper. Think about this. There was nothing. They said the flavor was great there, but everything was spackled, overcooked.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
yeah,
So let's talk about meal service and kind of what the judges said about each table of food. So Danny was up first. He did a paella with black rice and piquillo pepper puree with a frame of black garlic, zucchini, and creme fraiche purees. I thought it looked stunning. The frame
yeah,
looked really good. Curtis thought the border was actually tape, but then he swiped through it and said, "Oh, this is a sauce." Gail liked the use of the white space, and it tastes pretty good, said Tom. He praised the cook of the seafood. Kristen said the texture of the rice was fantastic, and she said, "I've got no notes." No higher praise than you can get from a
well,
judge
the
on a cooking
fun thing
competition
about
that
that
says,
one
"I got
is,
no notes."
look, the fun thing about that one is he was like, I burnt my rice. It's smoking at the
Yeah, that's
bottom.
right.
And he like, oh, I got it. But here's the thing. That's the sign of a great chef that you're like, uh-oh, caught it, pivoted, fixed it, boom.
Yep.
Great job.
Yep. He scooped out the top layer of rice that didn't have a burnt taste to it and was able to spread it out within the dimensions of what he had without it looking like he was lacking something. So good on him for
Yep.
being able to do that. Dan was up next. He did a beet tartare with beet puree, fried kale and pumpkin seed puree with a fried kale salad and candied pumpkin seeds, scallion powder, black garlic labneh with harissa oil, horseradish emulsion, and something he called a puffin. He was trying to make a pita, but he decided not to put it in the oven. Instead, cooked it on the flat top, and it kind of was a cross between what a pita and an English muffin. So he just called it a puffin. So Dan inventing a new food right in front of our eyes. His table also looked really good. It was a lot of references to Jackson Pollock, so it looked very Jackson Pollock-esque, just sauces
Right.
thrown everywhere. Uh, eh, Curtis called it playful and fun. Gail loved the puffins. Tom liked how he could mix and match the different ingredients, and then Kristen looked like she had the most fun judging this particular challenge with everybody. She
Oh
takes the
yeah.
two puffins and like is playing with the food and smashes, like grabs all the ingredients with the two puffins and makes this huge like beet sandwich with it. She just had a smile on her face through the whole night and was like finger painting through some of the sauces. So she had a lot of fun. What did you think of Dan's?
Great job. Like I said, once again, another one of those chefs that has the experience in the kitchen to say, oh, this not working, let me switch techniques. But this is why I like cooking versus baking. Because in baking, once you put it in the oven, you gotta go to church and pray to God and come out.
Yeah.
So I'm all about the cooking process, and like I said, you can pivot in the middle of your cooking. Great job, Dan. Like I said, I've been telling you for weeks now. I'm a fan of Dan.
Yep.
I'm a
Yep.
big fan of his because he's cooking some great food and he's really representing Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah. He's representing Wisconsin really well. So Manny, he did a squid ink risotto with crab scallops and shrimp, Calabrian chili oil, sun-dried tomato puree, and pesto trapanese. Curtis thought the black risotto looked good against the white table, which that's the probably the best thing you could have said about his table. Gail did think the
Yep.
flavor of the risotto was good, um, but Curtis's mouth was on fire for a long time because of the Calabrian chili sauce, Calabrian chili oil. He thought it was way too spicy, and then of course we talked about the risotto seizing up. Yeah, just kind of a clunker of a table. Michelle did cured salmon, a salmon mousse, beet biscuits, pickled beets, and capers. She was really going for, I guess, kind of like a charcuterie board. But man, when they showed it, it was really tiny. Like it against that really large white table, it just was not enough for her. Gail thought the tiny food presentation was too bunched together, needed room to breathe. Tom didn't think it tasted right collectively. He said this doesn't feel like her at all, or Kristen said this doesn't feel like her at all. And we talked about that about earlier when she said, be yourself, cook who you are, and she kind of did the exact opposite of that. And she actively avoided, the things that she would be good at in this kind of a challenge. So I think we beat Michelle up a little too long already. So we'll move on.
All our wouldas and couldas and shouldas.
So the last two to present were Savannah and Laura, and I thought the editing between those two were hilarious, where they showed Savannah being all kind of manic and shucking oysters really fast and in a hurry, and Laura's just kind of waltzing through the kitchen, taking her time, thoughtfully spooning the sauces onto the table, just kind of with some classical music playing in the background. What did you think of that contrast? In like we talked about, everybody's got the same amount of time, but some people are just harried, and some people just understand that and have that kind of ticking clock in the back of their head.
Well, I see, the turtle in the hair going on right there. And Laura was like had a lot of purees and sauces and powders and everything like that. And her counterpart was just and because she was cooking more and doing more things.
Yeah,
Um, but like I said, it's all on how that particular chef handles their time and their breathing.
yeah,
It was just ripping and running around. She was sitting there just putting little dollops and stroking them down. And her table Laura's table looked amazing.
yeah.
It looked so whimsically flavorful, tasty, and all that good stuff. So, like I said, editing is always fun to watch.
Yeah, I thought they
Even
were
though-
being funny.
yeah, even on my show, I was watching other before my show came out. I was watching the other Extreme Chef episodes to see how they cut up things. And then when I saw mine, I'm like, wow, they cut out a lot. They added and put it there, and yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was. I was like, wow, did I really say that? I didn't say that when I did that. Oh, they got the voice and put it over here and did that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
editing is real big in these competitions.
So let's talk about Savannah's table and take a deep breath because hers was a lot. So she did a kombu cured salmon nigiri with mustard green wasabi, shrimp tempura with yuzu salt and yuzu ponzu daikon gane, boiled and grilled octopus with wasabi, seared tuna and fennel pollen, coriander and white pepper with black garlic soy glaze, oyster with ahi amarilla sauce, and champagne gelée and caviar. I mean, she really went for it. I thought the table looked really cool. Everything had like what Tom said, everything kind of had a purpose. You go from kind of the end of the table and you moved your way to the middle and you ate all the different small pieces of different seafood, all culminating into this like uh, mountain of oysters in the middle of the table. Unfortunately, though, the octopus didn't really come out well. The texture was mushy. It was overcharred. Gail found the tempura a little bit greasy, but she said the oysters at the end were great. What did you think of Savannah's, kaiseki inspired dish?
Very nice. But I think all their points on that made sense, especially about being greasy. You can see the grease spots on the table,
Yeah,
and so the char on the octopus you can see a little dark. But like I say, the going that extra mile and going down that road, because the Kaisaki road is a hard road to go down. But she pulled it off in what she could in that time slot. Um, if you ever get a chance to have a Kaisaki dinner, it's amazing. Um, but she did what she could in the amount of time she had.
yeah. I mean, I,
But
I
once
thought it was.
again, but once again, she did a lot of cooking and frying and all this, and Laura didn't do all those things. She went the sweet style,
Yeah,
so it's more gentle and okay. When that's done, while that's baking, I can put this sauce and this puree and this powder. So that's why they did the contrast.
yeah.
Somebody running around like a chicken without a head, and then Laura moving around like a snail, like, oh, I got this.
So speaking of Laura,
Um,
she brings up the end with dessert, and I thought it looked beautiful. She did a rose, sour cherry, pistachio, and honey sauces with something called Maris, which is turkey ice cream or Turkish. Sorry, not turkey. Turkey would be horrible. Turkish ice cream. She said it was kind of chewy, which I was kind of trying to visualize what that is. But have you ever seen those videos of the Turkish ice cream guy kind of playing tricks on people getting ice cream, from his vendor? Like, have you seen that on TikTok and YouTube? It's this really kind of stretchy, chewy ice cream, and he kind of plays keep away with the customer. So he puts ice cream on a cone, hands it to him, and then with his long spatula, pulls it back and then switches cones. It's just neat, these neat hand tricks that these vendors do in Turkey with this ice cream.
okay.
But the texture, I'm kind of glad Tom said it. It was like a mochi and ice cream had a baby. So that really gave me an idea of what the texture would be like, and now I want to try it. So hopefully I can find a place that's got it, maybe here in Jacksonville. And then so she did that with the sour cherry and honey, Mars meringue, and baklava. So the baklava, I think, is what put it over the top for her. She really nailed the presentation as well. It looked beautiful. She put the ring of baklava on the table and told them to, break it up with a spoon. And Curtis loved the baklava, and every bite was different. Tom said every bite was interesting and every bite was different. And Kristen feels the table service had a purpose. And Gail said all the flavors are clear, beautiful, and fun. So, looking at that dish and the interactivity of it with breaking up the baklava and scooping that up with this very interesting textural ice cream, I think is what kind of tipped Laura over the edge, because I really thought it was going to be between Laura, Savannah, and maybe Dan. But both Dan or Savannah had some trips in there, but Laura's was basically almost perfect. So, what did we think of Laura's dessert?
Loved it. Loved it. I thought she did a great job, presentation wise, interactive. Because when you have an experience like that, it should be interactive. So she did a great job,
Yeah.
really great job on it.
Yep.
And she came back from Last Chance Kitchen, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, we get to judges table. The top three are Laura, Danny, and Dan. And then Laura comes back. She wins the thing. She comes back from LCK swinging, and she gets an advantage in the next elimination challenge. So, the bottom two were Manny and Michelle. And we talked about not finding, there's no middle, but Savannah kind of found her way into the middle with
Yep.
her plating. She was safe. She wasn't the top, but she was not the bottom either. So it was between Manny and Michelle, and Michelle got eliminated. So give me your thoughts. This was kind of, you were saying her praises. She was an early pick for you in the draft. When you heard Michelle pack your knives and go, what were you thinking?
Manny should have gone.
Well,
Manny should have.
walk me through your thought process on that.
Okay, so Manny, and we've talked about this how Manny should have been gone a couple of weeks ago. But on this one, you do risotto, which everybody knows you don't do risotto, and you screwed it up. All your protein, everything was just overcooked. The only thing that stood out in your dish was that they said your risotto had good flavor, but you I just think Manny called it in once again. He just throwing things against the wall and hope it stick.
So mine when I saw this happening, I was like, how is this guy still in the how is mediocre Manny still in the competition?
But how are you here?
This is
Mediocre Manny.
this this is the fifth time he's been on the bottom and he's somehow still skating through. And it's another example of how the quick fires are supposed to matter, but they don't. He was in the bottom of the quick fire and the bottom of the elimination challenge again, just like he was last week, and he lives to cook another day. How many more chefs are going to have to be sacrificed at the altar of mediocre Manny so he can cook another day? Even Gail said during the judges table, I don't think the quickfire needs to be part of this conversation. Yes, the hell it does, because he was on the bottom twice. He's been on the bottom. I know you can't judge the current round of dishes based on the past performances of other episodes, but you can't escape the fact that he's been on the bottom 5 times and he's two cooks away from winning this thing. I don't get it. I think overall this head snapping change of the quick fires not mattering and then all of a sudden the quick fires now matter in the same season. I just don't think this needs to happen next season. I hope they do away with this. I hope they read the internet banter about how awful this is and decide let's go back to the way quick fires were, give them immunity if they win, maybe cash. But clearly the show doesn't know how to do this. I don't understand how this show works anymore, and it's pissing me off. I don't like why are you doing it? It's a bad rule change. It's just bad all around. It'll I don't know. I just don't
Well,
know.
here's my thing. Like I say, I've stopped watching Top Chef for a couple of reasons. But seeing chefs like Manny skate through and everybody, all these other chefs are falling by the wayside, it's like that's one of the reasons I stopped watching Top Chef. There's a couple of other reasons too. But like I said, I don't know how Manny continues to keep skating through, and he's making he did what Savannah did unintentionally. Savannah found the middle unintentionally. He found it intentionally.
Yeah.
Because when they brought Manny and Michelle up, they told her, "Hey, you good? You're safe." Manny has been safe for 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Even though he was on my team and I picked him, he started off strong. But as we get close to the end, he just mediocre Manny. I guess that's his new nickname now. Because it's like, dude, and even on this week, when they were going to commercial, they showed him with his hands on his hips, his head in the air, like, I know I messed that up. I know
Yeah.
I'm going home. And
Yeah.
here he is sitting home Michelle, and like, dude, yeah, if he's in the top two, once again, I'll be done with Top Chef. Once
Yeah.
again, I'll be done with Top Chef.
I'm interested to see what happens in the next couple of episodes, but
And here's the other thing too. Here's my other thing that makes me mad. Tom, you've been doing this long enough, not just Top Chef, but in the industry long enough to see when somebody's phoning shit in. Kirsten, you've been in that position. You should see when he's just phoning shit in. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
And Gail, same thing with you. You've been there since day one. You see him hiding behind everybody else, and you still allow him to do that.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. Here's the other thing too. After this season is over with, please do not bring Manny back as an all-star.
I honestly don't. I To be fair, okay, and I say this of all the chefs, Manny included. outside of Top Chef, Manny and these other chefs are great. They have to be on the show. They're great in their own environment.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I do not see any all stars coming out of this season. If there's an all star season in the future, which I'm sure there's going to be, I just don't see any all stars coming out of Wisconsin. It's unfortunate. I mean, but the casting has been a little rough this season overall. There have been some standouts. Sue, Savannah, Rosica, Danny, I think are really great. But overall, I just think it's been a lackluster season, and it's kind of a rebuilding year, right? We're coming off of Portland, Houston, and London, probably three of the greatest seasons of Top Chef ever in 21 seasons. So you're coming from like the Bulls winning, back-to-back championships to now rebuilding because Jordan left the team. So this is where we're at. We're in a rebuilding year back in the States coming from World All-Stars. And
So let
it's
me ask you this then: How do you how do you go out and find these talents, the ones that you know that's going to perform from beginning to the end?
well, I don't know. I've never had to cast a reality show before, but the things you look for are personality, looks, charisma, that kind of thing, and then you kind of just hope they're able to cook well for 14 weeks.
So, but here's the thing though. I think it's like perfect example. You want to rebuild, okay, cool. But how do you find the ones that you're doing? I can tell you that I'm the best pastry chef in the world. Show you videos of me doing stuff and stuff like that. But until you put me under the clock, then you got to see what the pressure is. If I tell you I'm the best pastry chef, I send you my bio, I send you everything you asked for. I great conversation and the interview and everything. But you've never seen me cook.
Yeah, I think a couple things come into play. Like with Portland and Houston, those were kind of the COVID seasons. You had a lot of chefs that were out of work. So you had a lot more. I think the pool of chefs to pull from those two seasons was a lot larger. I mean, you had Shota Nakajima coming on to top. When I heard he was on Top Chef in Portland, I was like, holy crap, Shota's on Top Chef. That's amazing. So you had him, and then you had Buddha coming out of Houston and then going into World All Stars. So you had two seasons kind of that were in those COVID seasons, and chefs just didn't, they wanted to get on the show, promote their restaurants so that when you come out of COVID, you got something you can grow your business again. Now that we're past COVID with the Wisconsin episode, and London kind of an anomaly being the World All Stars, but you're out of COVID now. All the restaurants are back open. I think maybe that pool of talent got a little bit smaller now because chefs are back working, 16, 18 hours a day, and they can't find the time to try to fit Top Chef into their lives. So that's my theory. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing though. I'm gonna say this: of all the chefs on there that I would say stood out to me, who you think my number one person would be?
I'm I don't know. I'm gonna say maybe Danny or Rosica.
Was Dan.
Dan. Oh yeah. Dan. Dan's doing really well.
Dan. I mean, and the reason I like him is he's doing things in his hometown that win, lose, or draw, he'll be a fan favorite in Wisconsin
Yeah, I think so too.
because he's done the supper club, did great with that, did great with the fish boil. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though he hated it at first, he's like, "Oh, I can do a fish boil." Who knows? Dan may be doing fish boils now and making a killing off of it. But I think Dan has really stuck to his guns as to what he is and how he does things.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with him. Rosica, like I say, she was on my team. Loved her to death. I think the other person that stuck out, that still sticks out to me, is Danny and Laura.
Yeah. Laura's doing
Um,
really well.
I think Laura, if she does what she keeps doing, she may be an all-star because she may win this coming out of Last Chance Kitchen.
Yeah.
So,
Very well could be.
like I said, like I say, Danny, Laura, Dan, um, of course, you know I'm always gonna be a fan of Michelle. I wish I could have seen more of Charlie though. Chef Pierre.
Yeah,
I wish I could have seen more of him.
yeah.
So yeah, like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see. But here's the other thing too. It's gonna be interesting to see when they get to uh, the smaller group if they're gonna bring these chefs back to help them cook or whatever.
Oh yeah, you know they are. When they get down to the last three, they're going to bring the eliminated chefs back to be their sous chefs for their final
Yeah.
meals. So Michelle goes home. Manny stays. He's making a lot of technical and unforced errors, so he's got to stop doing that if he wants to win this thing. And for Michelle, unfortunately, there's no Last Chance Kitchen anymore. We're done with that. So there's no more Last Chance Kitchen. She's gone. So let's do a quick draft point update. So Savannah was the quickfire winner, so she gets your 5 points. Top of the judges table was Danny and Dan and Laura. So Danny and Dan get you 3 points. Well, Dan gets me 3 points. He's the only guy on my team left. So I'm glad we're still generating points in that sense. Danny gets you 3 points for being in the top, and then Laura wins the elimination challenge, so she gets 7 points. So I guess the advantage for you or disadvantage for you having most of the chefs left is the bottom of the judges table are all going to go to you. -2 points for Manny and Michelle, both being in the bottom of the judges table. So that's going to hurt you a little bit, but not too much because for the episode total, you had 11 points to my 3. And then for the show totals, you have 106 and I have 43. So we are, I am almost, well, I'm bad at math, but I'm pretty sure I'm mathematically out of this at this point, even if Dan just ran the table for the rest of the season, which, there's
Uh-huh.
not very many episodes left. I think in the preview they said, there's 5 people left, and the winner's here. You're one cook away from the finals. So we're getting towards the end of our episodic recaps, and it's going to be hopefully an exciting final, and we'll see who gets there. So, Chef,
Yeah.
any
I'm
final
looking
thoughts?
forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be at that last table. Um, and hopefully Manny's not there. I mean, anyway.
Poor Manny. He started off so well, and now we're kind of like,
I
is this guy going to
know.
go home or what?
Listen, I need to put him on the bench, dude. You need the bench. But no, like I said, but all in all, I think all the chefs except for one, and we know who that is has been amazingly creative, and they're putting forth all this effort for that because not only are they on the show, but they put their personal life on hold for what 2 months or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you got to give them up to. That's not an easy thing to do, as they talked about in the show. I miss my wife and she's 5 minutes away, or my fiance, um, Michelle, her boyfriend. All these are great big supporters of what they're doing. So yeah, big hats off to not just the chefs, but their loved ones and the supporters back at home. I think we need to get the staff that's cooking without them and everything like that. So yeah, so let's give it up to those folks as well.
Yep. Yep. Well, I want to give you the last few words here. What do you got going on? What are some things that people need to be aware of and that follow you, or what's Chef Amadeus up to in the next couple weeks?
So Chef Amadeus now is working with some kids with the culinary program, and we'll be doing. The reason I don't have my podcast up and running yet is because I'm working with these kids to get their podcast up first. I'm putting the kids first, putting their podcast up, and we're going to be working with local chefs and regional chefs on getting them the having the whole hospitality industry come in and talk to them. So give them different roads to take in this industry. And I always tell them, you don't have to be in a restaurant. You could do. There's so many other things you can do. So I'm happy to be doing that. Um, and we're going to be doing a lot of fundraising for this particular group because we want to make sure that I give them every advantage they can. And then once again, just follow me on Instagram at Chef Amadeus, TikTok at Chef Amadeus, Facebook fans of Chef Amadeus, and of course my spices are on my website chefamadeus.net. Swing by, pick some up, and yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, make sure you follow him so you can keep everybody up to date on how he's working with these kids and furthering education and molding young minds. And don't forget to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media channels. And make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice and on YouTube so you know when new episodes of Eat Your Content drop. Chef Amadeus, thanks again for your time. We're getting close to the end, but I appreciate you, hanging out with me these last few weeks, and we'll hopefully knock it out of the park here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a blast.